Hello and welcome to the final Meatless Monday for our 6-week block. We are making our breakfast for dinner, Brinner, tonight, and I am ready for it. I'm just going to quickly grab the recipe from the printer and then I'll be with you. You right? We have a viewer. If you're signing on, make sure you say hello so I know who is cooking. Say whether you're cooking or whether you're just here to hang out and ask some questions. Like I said before, this is the final Meatless Monday, so I know it is the long weekend. However, we couldn't change it till next Monday. So for all the people that are watching and recording, thank you so much for staying committed even though it's not on your regular night. That is the great thing with Meatless Monday, is that you can do it any night of the week. It doesn't actually matter too much. So as always, I just got the notification that I'm live, so we'll wait for a couple of minutes to let everybody pop on and then we'll start cooking. I should probably get some of the ingredients out of the fridge. Not that organised today. We had Hi, I'm watching with my daughter from Cromwell. Hi Joe, that's awesome. Are you cooking along or just watching? So happy for you to join us. We'll wait a couple more minutes and then we'll just get cooking. Like I said before, I'm just getting the last of the ingredients out of the fridge and the cupboard so that once we start cooking, I'm all ready to go. Rightio, this is the last of my ingredients. Joe, were you just watching or are you cooking? Maybe? Cool. Just watching but taking notes to cook tomorrow. Wasn't organised enough to get the ingredients. My daughter 8 is writing what is happening. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for joining in, because honestly, with long weekend, we knew that people kind of wouldn't be able to make it. But then also, do remember, Joe, that there's always the recording, so you can watch that back when you're cooking tomorrow night. It's saved to the Balance Me Facebook page and also the Balance Me Meatless Monday community group. And then for the ingredients and the method, that's also on the Balance Me website. So I can send you a link after we finish this to the method that's on the website so that you can take notes and things, but also the method is there so you don't have to take really detailed notes. So let's start cooking. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the oven on to 180 degrees fan bake. If you're like me and you store your trays in your oven, make sure you get them out so they don't get too hot. The next thing we're going to do is combine our tamari, maple syrup, paprika, cumin, salt and pepper in a flat dish, and this is what we're going to make our tempeh bacon with. So I'm going to use I'm actually just going to use the Tupperware because then that's really easy for storage. And if you use a Tupperware, it's quite nice to be able to flip it both ways, so it's just an easier marinating resource. So we need tamari, 1 tablespoon of tamari, one tablespoon of maple syrup. I like to use the pure maple syrup. Your 1 tablespoon of paprika, your 1 teaspoon of paprika and 1 teaspoon of cumin. If you like, so this is where you kind of get your little bit of your smoky flavor and also your little bit of heat. So if you are kind of a little bit heat sensitive, or people in your family are a little bit heat sensitive, then definitely you can adjust those flavors. You don't have to make them really, really spicy. Then I'm just going to do a nice crack of pepper and a crack of salt. If you like your bacon really salty, then add more salt, but if you did not, I wasn't the biggest fan of bacon in the first place before I went plant-based, so you can always change these recipes to go up and down how you're liking them. Then what I'm doing, I'm so sorry, I will make sure that you can actually see what I'm doing. And then what I'm doing now is I just have my spoon and I'm just stirring up the marinade. Cool. Then we move on to our tempeh. So you have your tempeh here. So your tempeh is an awesome protein source, and it's also fermented. However, you do have to be careful because when things are fermented and you're heating them, you do lose some of the bacteria as they are subject to heat. So just make sure that if you're like, yay, probiotics, that you're really including your sauerkraut or your kimchi, your miso, things that aren't heated all the time. I'm just going to put this up just a little bit more. Is that good? Yeah. So if you've never cooked with tempeh before, the smell is, it is a little bit funny. I think it smells really nutty. So I basically, because we're using this whole block, I just cut the scissors across and then I open it up and cut down. It is meant to be vacuum sealed, so if you get your pack of tempeh, this has only happened to me once or twice before, and it's not vacuum sealed, I definitely wouldn't recommend using it because it could just mean that the enzymes have activated and they could just go a little bit too far, and you just want to be really careful with that. So then I'm going to get my knife. And Joe, if you or your daughter have any questions, then just shout out. I'm always trying to check the comments. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice my tempeh into kind of rashers. So 4 rashers, as you can see. And then I'm going to put them up on their sides. And I'm going to slice them as thin as you can. Because the thinner they are, the crispier they get in terms of becoming into rashers of bacon. If they're really thick, then you don't have the same texture. And the biggest thing in plant-based cooking that people really struggle with, and why people struggle with recipes, is mainly the texture of things, because we're not used to it. So if there's a recipe that you really enjoy the flavors with, but you're not quite sure on the texture, there's always a way to be able to change the recipe up. Now Joe, if your daughter's making this tomorrow and she's doing the slicing, just maybe give her a helping hand so that she can get it thin enough, but also protecting her fingers. So from every one bit, do most supermarkets have tempeh? Sorry if I spelled wrong. Or do I go, no, it's definitely, it's at, you're in Cromwell, so it's definitely at, is it Fresh Choice? It's right on the corner by the BP. This is what it looks like. So it's a Tonzu, it's a New Zealand brand. This is the only brand that I've seen in New Zealand. But yeah, I can also send you a photo of this to help you out tomorrow. But I've definitely seen it at, oh, it's Fresh Choice. I've seen it at Fresh Choice. So from each slice of tempeh that I've got, I've then gone and thinly sliced it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little rashers. So as you can see, you definitely want it to be quite thin. Once again, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's okay. It's still going to taste really good. It just might mean that you might have to increase your marinade just so it can really absorb into all of the flavors. Otherwise, you might have good flavors on the outside and then on the inside pretty boring tempeh. I can see that more people are hopping on, so just make sure you say hello so I can see who you are, because I can just see numbers. I can't actually see who it is. And I'd love to chat to you if you have any questions. Right, so I have my tempeh all sliced up, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it into the marinade. So I'm just going to do it in, just place it in slices, and you'll see what I mean about the lid really soon. I'm just going to place it all in there. And tempeh is quite strong. It's kind of like tofu. You can shake it about and it's not going to crumble or disintegrate if you use. So don't worry too much about if you're slicing it so thin and you think it's going to fall apart. It won't. It's okay. So cool. Here we have our bacon. And see what I mean by being able to flip it upside down. So give it a good little shake. And try and see if you can get it all coated. So if I open this up now, you can see that it's all pretty much coated. So we're going to leave that for a couple of minutes. I'm going to leave that for a couple minutes, and I might actually put it upside down so it's on the bigger side. And then the next thing we're going to do is prepare our vine tomatoes. So I have my vine tomatoes here, and a lot of people have said that like vine tomatoes are really expensive right now, so that's okay. If you don't need to get if you are on a budget, then you can totally get cherry tomatoes or real tomatoes, and it totally doesn't matter. Use the exact same method. I just think that it's more for plating. It looks really delicious if you're having them on vine tomatoes, and also people eat with their eyes. So if you're trying to convince, say, a family member, a partner, a son, a daughter, anyone into plant-based eating, the best thing to do is make your food really look amazing, because that's going to be the first step into if they're going to eat it. So I'm going to quickly go over to the sink and give these a quick rinse, and then I will come back and we'll put them in a baking dish. Cool. And I'm just going to put them into a glass. I prefer to use a glass with tomatoes. Don't tell me why. I mean, don't ask me why. I'm not sure. There's no method to the madness, but I think it just works better. So I'm going to place them into here. And then I'm going to just drizzle with olive oil. You don't need much olive oil because there is a lot of moisture that will pop out of the tomatoes. Oh, that salts it out. And then once again, your salt and your pepper, you can do to your flavors. We love salt and pepper on our tomatoes, so I'm going to do quite a bit. If you're making this for children and they don't like salt and pepper so much, that's okay. So here we go. Oh no! Let's try that again. Whoa, what's going on? Okay. I guess my phone, I deserve that because I haven't moved that, I haven't moved the wall mount in a while, but that's okay. Hopefully you stay standing for the rest of the time. I can see some more people popping in, so if you're here just to say hello, let me know who you are so I can chat to you using your name rather than not knowing who's... Okay, right, let's try again. It's the last Meatless Monday. This was bound to happen, wasn't it? Okay. Let's hope it stays up there. If it falls again, we're going to have to figure out something else, but... Oh my golly. Okay. It's always eventful on Meatless Monday, let's be honest. There's always something going on. Oh, hi Marie. How are you doing? Thank you so much for popping in. I think this will be another recipe that you'll actually really enjoy. It's such a super simple, quick staple. Okay, sorry, we're chatting a lot. So the salt and pepper placed in the oven for, it says 25 minutes. I'm going to put the timer on for 20 and we'll go from there. The next thing that we're going to do is heat a pan for our tempeh. Mushrooms. So we have portobello mushrooms here, and I love portobello mushrooms. They're awesome in any type of plant-based baking because basically you're going to be able to create such a rich texture with them rather than and they provide so much, like so many different flavors and textures going on so that you can really replicate some different how do I say this? Like, for example, we use mushrooms in all of our burger patties, all of our really meaty dishes like our lasagna and our mushrooms, and our sausage rolls. And that is what really gives us the texture and the punch that we're looking for. So there's a couple ways that you can serve this. In this recipe, what we've done is we slice them up, and that is basically just that's just the way that I like to cook them. However, if you're a mushroom lover, then I totally recommend putting them upside down, so bum up in a pan with some olive oil and garlic, and that can also be a really decadent way to serve them. But other than that, we're gonna just slice them up. Stick to the recipe, Olivia. I'm a shocker for not sticking to the recipe. So I have 3 here, just because mine were a little bit smaller. I'm going to turn on my element, place some olive oil in there. And I'm going to put it onto sorry, my recipe is also falling down. Week 6 is just, we're going for it. So I'm going to put the mushrooms into this fry pan, and it's just going to be on a lower heat. And then we're going to mince some garlic to add to them. So I've got my garlic here. And it says 2 cloves of garlic. And like I say every week, if you love garlic, add more garlic. And if you don't like garlic, then add less. It's entirely up to you. All of these recipes are just such a base start for you. And once you get more and more confident in the kitchen, you're going to be able to cook these recipes without constantly looking at the ingredients list and constantly trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to smash the garlic, and you'll see that the skin just peels off really easily there, rather than constantly trying to figure it out. So what I do is I get my knife in the palm of my hand and I just push it down, and then you'll see that the skin just peels straight off. So no more struggling with garlic. Then I'm going to really simply dice it up. And I just keep going over it, running my knife through it, bring it in closer, and start again. Once it's small enough, you can add it to the pan like this. Once again, if you love garlic, then add it to the pan in really big chunks, but if you don't like garlic so much, then you can get your knife and you can start mincing. And that's just by applying pressure and sliding it under your knife. Group it up again and repeat the process. Once it's thin enough for you, add your garlic to the pan. Once that's got going, then turn on your front pan, and we're going to turn it on to a low medium heat. Add some olive oil. I'm just going to quickly wash my hands. And we're going to start slicing our, frying off our bacon. So I remove the lid. If you want your bacon to be kind of smoky or any extra flavors in there, then you can totally leave it for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It doesn't actually matter. The more you marinate it, the more flavors are going to be there. So you can do that as well. If you want it to be kind of like glazed on the outside once it's finished cooking, then I would definitely recommend doubling the tamari maple syrup. Maybe the paprika and cumin, depending on your taste buds. If you like the spice, then go for it. If you not so much, then stick with it being lower. Cool. So I'm just going to add in my tempeh to my pan. Make sure that there's enough of a room around the tempeh, because so that you can, it's got some room to breathe. We might have to do this in 2 batches, but they'll be okay, because if it's finished, then we will, once it's finished, we'll just chuck it in the pan that's in the oven to keep it warm. You could also cook this bacon just straight into the pan. You can, straight into the oven, sorry, with the tomatoes. That's also a really good option. Who doesn't love a one-pan meal? It's kind of like our last week when we made our burritos. You just chop everything up and put it together. Yum, my garlic is smelling so good. I don't think I'll ever get over the smell of garlic cooking. So I've also turned my mushrooms down to a really low heat now. You don't want to overcook your mushrooms. If you wanted to turn these into, say, a creamy mushroom sauce to have with your breakfast, then you can totally add in some soy milk. Or soy milk has the least amount of flavour, but you could also do your cashew milk and just let it simmer and reduce. And that will be a beautiful mushroom sauce. We make a really good mushroom stroganoff when with like a boatload of mushrooms, like buttered mushrooms with some garlic, some salt, pepper, a little bit of cumin, tiny, like 1 tablespoon of tamari, and then you add in maybe 2 to 3 cups of your plant milk, whether that's soy or cashew, or I wouldn't really do almond. I think almond has too much of a sweeter taste to it. And then you just let that cook down, and then you add that to your favorite spaghetti, or you could have it on toast or whatever you want to do, and it is just delicious. So just because you now can't make your, if you're trying to go plant-based, or for me, for example, my journey started by going dairy-free, and so that was one of my things, is that my partner loves mushroom sauce, and it was one thing that he was really good at making. And so what happened was he was like, well, I really like making the sauce for you, and so we had to find an alternative so he could still make it for me, but without the thickened cream and the milk and the Parmesan cheese. So there's so many options. You don't have to get, when you're making a lifestyle change, you don't have to give up on your favorite foods. There's so many different things that you can try. Cool, so while that's cooking off, I'm going to get my loaf of ciabatta. And I'm going to slice off 8 slices because we're feeding 4 people and everyone should get 2 slices. Unless you've got your children, then maybe they could have 1. You can slice how many slices of bread you want. You could slice them thick, you could slice them thin. It's entirely up to you. If you find that your bread you're struggling to cut it, you can always turn it upside down, because then you're cutting into a firm part rather than the soft part, and so you have a little bit more of a thing to grab, or for your knife to grab, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. And yeah, like the recipe said, it's about half a ciabatta. Cool, my bacon is starting to cook. The tomatoes are starting to split. Yum, 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 yum. What I'm actually going to do is that these mushrooms are cooking pretty well. I'm going to chuck some tempeh into this pan. And then you'll also get the yummy garlic coming back into the tempeh bacon. And as you can see, this tempeh bacon, you don't have to, like normally sometimes people would only eat 2 rashers of bacon. You can have like, I don't know, 6 rashers of this smoky tempeh bacon. Cool. And now to flip the tempeh, we're just going to get our tongs. Is everything making sense, Joe? Do you have any questions? Does your daughter have any questions? Do you have any questions about plant-based eating in general? Any recipe queries? Let us know, because I'm more than happy to answer more questions, even just about this one. This recipe is a really simple recipe, so we have some spare time. If there was any questions that you wanted to ask, then feel free to shout out. We're an open book at Balance Me. I'm going to give the bacon a bit of a flip. Looks so yummy. That's good. That's, like I said, you eat with your eyes. What are you having for dinner tonight, seeing that you're cooking this tomorrow night? Does your daughter also love to cook? Morgan, my daughter, wants to know why tempeh bacon is better than other bacon. In terms of other bacon, are you talking about like the meat substitutes at the grocery store? Or are you talking about like bacon from a pig? I'm trying to get the kids to eat alternative ways. Well, so this is definitely it's such an interesting question, and it's definitely something that has to be understood to be able to make your own decision. The only way that anybody in this world, whether you're a child or an adult, or no matter your relationship to the person who is interested in this way of eating, you have to believe it yourself. So there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, I prefer to eat tempeh bacon because I love the nutrients that I get from it, and also when we're eating other bacons, this is a naturally sourced protein that we can flavor up to be so many different flavors. So you can also create this into peanut satay stir fry, and there's no fat involved in in this tempeh. However, when you're eating bacon, as you know, there will be a lot of preservatives involved in it, which preservatives are basically things that are added to food to make it last longer. And so what we're trying to do when we're eating in alternative ways, we're trying to eat the most natural form of food, because that's what our body can digest and absorb in the best way. When there's lots of preservatives or additives or extra things that our body doesn't know how to digest, it can make it hard to be able to utilize that food in the best possible way for our body. Does that make sense? I love this question because it is a really important question when you're trying to make new decisions and you're trying to learn new ways and new habits. So this question is really, really important. But I think that's the easiest way to explain it in a way that's understandable or relatable. But definitely it's just the makeup of the tempeh rather than the makeup of the alternatives that you're buying from a shelf that needs to be made shelf stable. Cool, so the tempeh is definitely coming along nicely. I can see your comment. I'll just come and read it in a second. So I'm flipping my tempeh again. And then once it's cooked, so you can see here, but it can still be really nice and juicy. Like, look at all that flavor in there. We barely put any oil in that pan. It's so delicious. And it's nice and crispy, it's nice and juicy, so you can see the glossin on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that all in the corner, and I'm going to put the final bits of bacon in here. And also, Morgan, ways I can understand that it can be really, really confusing if you, like, for example, I'm using the word bacon tonight, and in your world, this isn't bacon. We don't know what bacon is. Like, this is not bacon. So a lot of the times, and especially when you order from us on our weekly meal delivery, none of our food labels will contain the word meat or bacon or anything along those lines, just so that we don't blur those lines between what is real and what is not. So that's a great explanation. I'm changing my diet for health, but trying to convince kids is hard. I'm not articulate or educated enough in this area to explain it. Joe, that's totally understandable. I started this journey on my health because my digestion was really, like, not good. I started off dairy free, then I had to go gluten free, and then I've always been really, really interested in plant-based eating, and I would say that we were plant-focused even before I went plant-based. And then, like, once I actually got home from traveling, I had the opportunity to be able to really dive deep into it, and it completely changed my life. And the thing is as well that you have to remember as a mother, Joe, is that it's your job to guide them and to give them the opportunity to learn these new things, and they will pick it up, and they might not pick it up right now, but they will pick it up when they're ready to understand it. So there's definitely things, and if you're doing it for your health, they need to see the changes rather than hear the changes, if that makes sense. So even just little things like, if you have more energy to be able to play with them in the afternoon, or you have more energy to be able to take them swimming, or things like that, that's where they're going to see the evidence, because children are definitely very, very evidence-based learners. They're going to watch and learn, whereas if you just tell, then they're not going to buy in as fast or as quick as they could if they see the difference. So, love the questions. Keep them coming if you want any more. I'm just going to quickly put all this temper in this little pile here too, because we need to give our mushrooms a stir. Whoop. I'm actually going to turn the mushrooms off now and remove it from the heat. You don't want your mushrooms getting overcooked, otherwise they'll become quite chewy. Then the next thing we're going to do is, let's check our tomatoes. Oh my gosh, yum! They look so good. And there's the timer for 20 minutes. That's really hot. So what I'm going to do, turn the timer off, is I'm just going to squish my mushrooms over here. And I should have got a bigger tray, but I forgot that this was part of the recipe. And all these juices are down here with the salt and the pepper and the tomato. So I'm just going to rub the ciabatta in it like this, and then we're going to put this back into the oven to toast up your ciabatta bread. Do you think I can fit one more in there? Yeah, one more little one. Okay, so I'll just start off with that and then we'll go from there. So I'm just going to place that back in the oven really quickly. Oh, not for long. And with these other pieces, if you're like me and your tray's not big enough, I'm just going to put these ciabattas onto my oven tray. And I'm going to just drizzle some olive oil. Once again, if you're trying to avoid olive oil, then you don't have to do this. This is just me. I prefer, if I was going to choose between olive oil and a plant-based margarine or a plant-based butter, I'm going to go olive oil. Olive oil is the most natural source. However, when you buy your margarine from your store, it's definitely got lots of additives and things in it that you don't quite need. So I'm just going to place that in the oven and move that there. Flip my temper. This is where things kind of get all go. You know, the last like 5 minutes before breakfast and everything seems to be ready at once. That's the beautiful part of Brinner. Right, now the next thing is we're going to get our avocado. We're going to use our knife, slice it in. We made sushi for tea earlier. That is so good. How creative. I wish I had the patience to make sushi for tea. I've actually seen there is a, like the sushi roller thing that you put rice in each half and then you fill it up and then you close it over and you push it out onto your seaweed and ta-da, you have sushi. I think I need to get one of those because my partner and I love sushi. And we make it every now and again, but we can never get the rolls tight enough, so maybe I need to get one of those. Right, now we've got our mushroom, our avocado, and we've got our spinach. And I'm just going to get a plate, and I'm going to start getting ready to plate up. So, if you want to be super, ooper, duper fancy, watch along, but it doesn't really matter. I'm also going to turn my temper off because it is ready. I'm going to pull out my tray. Yum. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have my slices of ciabatta here. You can use one slice, you can use your 2 slices, you can have 3 slices. It's entirely up to you. I like to smash my avocado into my bread. However, if that's not a thing for you, then what you can do, I should have shown you before I did this, but you can get it all out, use your spoon to get it all out, and then place it upside down and it will just kind of slide out, and then you'll be able to spread it out and make it presentable on the plate. I'm going to get my knife and I'm going to smash my avocado in. If you wanted to, you could totally put in, you can drizzle over salt and pepper. and a bit of lemon, and then that's you kind of like your guac on toast, but it's okay, you don't have to. And then I'm going to add my spinach. I'm going to have a handful. You can have as much or as little as you like. I'm just going to place that on the side of the plate to keep it off to the side. Then I've got my mushrooms. I'm going to put that there. If you wanted to up your vegetable content, I love to mix through red onion into my spinach. Also, if you like to have your spinach raw, then have it like this. If you don't like it raw, or you want to break it down a little bit so that you get more quantity because it gets smaller, chuck it in with your mushrooms in the last couple of minutes and it will wilt down, but it won't get too mushy. Then I'm going to add my bacon. And then I've got my tomatoes. I feel like we need some parsley or something to liven this up, but I don't have any right now. So, ta-da! Breakfast for dinner, Brinner. Yum! You can, woo! We're dropping everything today. You can also, like, if you put this on a smaller plate, you could put the tomatoes there. There's so many different things you can do. But, ta-da! Breakfast for dinner. Delicious. Enjoy. And thank you so much. This is the final Meatless Monday for 2020. It has been a pleasure. I love seeing people come on. I love answering questions. I love cooking along with you. I love inspiring you to get into the kitchen. And honestly, it makes me... I feel so privileged that I get to share this with a community, and that when people tag me in their photos or post in the Balanced Meat community, it just makes me smile so much, because it is just about creating small change here and there to be developing into a healthier being in the world, in the community, within ourselves as well. And that is the motto of Balanced Meat, to help you build your inner health toolbox. So thank you so much for joining in. We love to see you, and we hope to see you next year when we do our next Meatless Monday. If you have any questions, please shout out.